Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our April edition of our Cybersecurity Awareness Program. I do apologize in advance. I've been having some audio issues, so hopefully everybody can hear me here. And if not, we will try to address that as soon as we can here. Um, okay, looks like the audio is working. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Just a few housekeeping items. Um, Everyone's mic is muted currently. If you do have any questions as the presentation goes on here, you can simply ask those in chat. I will try to keep an eye on those throughout the presentation. However, if I overlook it, we will circle back at the end and answer any questions that we have here. So let's go ahead and get started here. So my name is Brian. I'm the CTO here at PCA Technology Group. I'm also a certified ethical hacker. It just means pretty much everything I'm talking about, I have the ability to do. In order to intelligently talk about it, you have to know how to do a lot of this stuff. And in order to protect clients from this bad stuff, you also kind of have to know how to do it as well. And we'll talk about what that is. So why is cybersecurity important? Well, in 2022, it was a even more busy year. 2021, when everyone was working remotely due to COVID and things, that was pretty crazy. But 2022 actually overshot that by almost 38%. So you can see that cyber attacks of some sort or another are not getting any better. In fact, they're actually getting worse. And it's no longer just big hacking gangs or government entities and things like that are doing this. It could be much smaller or individual folks that are trying to take advantage of unsuspecting folks because this has become quite a profitable business model, even though it's criminal. It really goes after a whole bunch of different entities. It could be remote workers, it could be educational institutes, colleges, things like that. They're also going after hospitals, unfortunately. So it's pretty much out there to the wild, and everybody could potentially fall victim to this. As you can see here on the screen, there's a bunch of logos of companies and whatnot. These are just some of the bigger ones that have recently been breached this year. Just this year. So there's some pretty big companies on there, and some of them you probably recognize in some way, shape, or form. It's either they were hacked and had data leak, or they've been breached of some sort or another. But all of these companies have been breached at this point this year alone. Now there's much more than this, but these are just some of the big ones. So just keep in mind that people like PayPal or Google, if they're getting breached, small, medium businesses, may not have much of a chance when it comes to financing to keep these bad guys out like these huge companies do. And if they can't keep them out, then you really got to wonder, okay, what chance do I have? Well, we're going to show you how these bad guys are doing this, and hopefully by avoiding some of the tactics that the bad guys are using, it will then also keep you from becoming one of the statistics or a logo on this slide. So let's move on here. The other thing to keep in mind is that if a hacker does happen to get into your system, it's not like they are gonna throw up all kinds of red alarm bells or flares saying, "Haha, I got you." They're actually in there. A lot of times they don't even know who they have initially. So what they're doing is, first of all, they're trying to figure out what company they have. Second of all, what value is there? Is their credit card numbers? Is their business secrets? Is their insurance information, social security numbers, anything like that that might be valuable that they could in turn either steal and try to sell on the dark web, or encrypt it and then try to get you to pay in order to unlock that data. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But sometimes they get you both. Sometimes they encrypt your data, which is ransomware, and they won't give you your access back unless you pay them X amount of dollars. And they also threaten to steal it, or they threaten to post it on the dark web and sell it. So depending on what kind of company you are, you may want to try to protect your customer data by paying that extortion fee to keep them from posting it. The other thing to keep in mind is that in the event that a company does suffer one of these attacks, it is a matter of about 60% of them go out of business, usually within 6 months after that major attack, because you can see, it's really detrimental to the companies and things like that. So again, we're going to try to show you all the tactics and tricks here, and hopefully that what we'll end up doing here is avoiding this in the first place. So who's responsible? Well, I'll tell you, every one of the breaches that happened on that previous slide page all happened because somebody let them in, inadvertently let them in. So they basically, and that's the trick here. So the idea is that you can have the best security system in the world, but if someone unlocks that door or disables that security system and allows the bad guy in, well, now they're on the inside and the security system is pretty much worthless. So that's the concept behind this. So basically, everybody on this call is responsible as part of this layer to keep the bad guys out, because they're going to target the people that are on this call. The easiest way into any network is through people, it's incredible how easy it actually is, unfortunately. So again, I'm going to explain some of the tactics that the bad guys are using, and things that you should be looking out for. Ways to avoid these innocent-looking things that are actually trying to trap end users into this. So we like to call it the human firewall, because that's ultimately what is the last line of defense, really. Question things, don't open things blindly, and we'll talk more about what that looks like here. So how does all this happen? It's done through something called social engineering. And basically what it is, it's just manipulating human tendencies and getting them to do what you want them to do. If you want them to click on a specific link or something, how do I get somebody to do that? Well, I can throw up 20, 30 pop-up windows on your screen and just flash them at you as fast as you can click them off. And if they're adult-oriented and you're at work, obviously you're going to start panicking very, very quickly, and you're going to be like, oh my God, what's going on? You start just clicking on everything. And in one of those windows, I actually wanted you to click on to download something, and you did that while you're trying to close out all those windows. That's a classic example of how to manipulate people without you even realizing it, because you're put into that panic mode and you're not thinking rationally, and it's understandable. Because they're not sure what the heck's going on with all these pop-ups and things. But that's a real simple demonstration on how easy it is to get somebody to do that. Another example is if I want to tie your hands up, if I'm carrying a book and I physically am around you, I could throw the book at you. What's your reaction? Your reaction is to catch the book usually, if you're paying attention. Or something, you'll try to stop the book from hitting the ground or whatever, a package or something like that. You'll try to stop that. Again, it's drawing your attention either to the package or tying your hands up or something and things like that. Again, it's just a way to manipulate folks because you're relying on their normal reactions to get something done. So we'll explain how a lot of this happens and some real specific examples. So the most common attacks, 90 to 95% of almost all the social engineering attacks are via email. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. It's done either in phishing, spearfishing, BEC is business email compromise is what that stands for, where they try to infiltrate your business email system either as an individual, and then they'll use previous conversations to try to entice other people in. They'll go through your history and maybe your clients, and they'll start reaching out to them saying, hey, I got this invoice or something, where they might try to bait them into sending them money and things like that. So that's predominantly the more common transport that is done through social engineering. Sometimes social media is used. So social media is used for a lot of reconnaissance. If once I get into a facility, if I go to their LinkedIn page, more likely than not, their employees are probably followers, or you can get a listing of principal users and things like that. Or you find out a specific user, I can go to your Facebook page or your Twitter page or your Instagram page or whatever it is, and maybe see, okay, who are your followers, who do you work for, where do you live, all those kind of things, because everybody posts everything about themselves online, unfortunately. I can fake friend you and get all kinds of information where you think I'm a long lost high school person, but that's kind of the tactic behind it. So some of the trends, again, we mentioned ransomware, extortion, automation. I'm sure everybody has probably heard about Chat GPT right now. That's one of the bigger ones that is out there, or AI, artificial intelligence. It's at the point now where you can actually use AI to actually do a lot of this stuff. It can set up phishing campaigns. It can craft emails. Long gone are the days where some king in Zimbabwe is wants to sell you his inheritance, and it's pretty obvious that it's a fake email. Nowadays, it's totally different, where it really looks legit, and we'll go through some of those examples. Who's behind it? Criminal groups, malicious insiders. Sometimes it's malicious insiders. The bad guys are trying to entice people on the inside with promise to pay them X amount of money or whatever. One thing to keep in mind is that, one, they usually don't pay you, and two, what you're doing is a actual federal crime. So unless you want to go to jail for a very, very long time, I would probably suggest that you consider the consequences behind this. This is no joke. So even when we're doing things, when we're giving permission to do it, we got to make sure we're doing it by the guidelines. We got to make sure that we're following everything to a T, so we don't go across that line where it makes it okay, I'm allowed to do this, where I'm not allowed to do this. So it's a pretty fine line that you got to teeter on if you're doing this as a cyber security person. So you definitely got to be careful. The attack vectors, as mentioned, most of the time it's done via the internet. Sometimes it's done mobilely, potentially wirelessly or something. Very rarely is it physically on site, but it does happen where sometimes if it's a local instance and you're a company that is enticing to try to go after, sometimes it would be a physical on-site thing. So just keep that in mind too. So is this phishing? No, this isn't the phishing part yet. This is just coming from some of the chats. And how come more phishing emails I'm reporting as junk and block sender and Outlook seem like more mails? Give me 1 second here. Scroll here. I'm getting that or suspect. Well, I'll explain a little bit about that. So the one thing I will tell you that is if you're getting phishing emails and it has that little unsubscribe button at the bottom, what you're doing is basically saying you're a live person. A lot of times, especially if it's obvious it's phishing, you can report it in Outlook, but definitely don't unsubscribe, because if you unsubscribe, all you're doing is telling the person that sent it to you that, hey, I got a live email address here. Whereas if you don't do that, they may or may not know whether they actually got the email, through. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's get into that part, and then it'll explain a little bit more. So before that, the web surfing part. So what I would recommend, if you do any type of web surfing from your work PC, make sure that you keep it limited to business use only. It definitely lowers your attack vectors by doing that. So don't be searching your coupon sites or your things like that, because they could be riddled with potentially hostile or bad type of content that you may or may not be aware of. Again, stay away from social media on your work PCs. I realize some companies use that as a marketing ploy. If that is the case, that's fine, but just make sure that you're careful of what you're doing on there. But if you're not using that, I would highly suggest wait till you get home to check your Facebook page or talk about your Snapchats or whatever it is that you're doing, because it has no place in the workplace. Make sure your browsers are up to date. This is another important thing. It seems like almost every other day there's a browser update coming out, and that's across the board, whether you're a Firefox user or Chrome user, Safari user, Edge user, whichever. Make sure that the browsers are up to date. So if you're getting notices that say, hey, there's a browser update, or it's telling you to update, make sure you do that as soon as possible, because the bad guys are able to leverage some of those security holes that again, they could utilize that to do something where you're not even sure what they're doing by you just simply visiting a website. So You also want to be suspicious of pop-up links and download links. Again, as I mentioned, it's pretty easy to get people to do things. And how that's done basically is if I want you to click on something, what I might do is send you to a website page, and then what will happen is it'll pop a window up, obviously, and you can't do anything until you either hit the close button or the X button, maybe in the top right-hand corner. The bad guys realize that you're going to probably click on one of those two areas. Now, the good thing is most of the browsers nowadays, they do block a lot of that stuff right out of the gate, so they've enabled pop-up blockers. However, there's still ways to get it through. But if you end up in a situation like that, and I'm a bad guy, what I'll do is I'll put something called a pop under, which is another window that is underneath that one that you're seeing. And when you click on one of those two areas, it will close that window down, but it's also downloading something with that window underneath that you clicked on and not even realized it. And it'll let me potentially put a back door in your machine where I could get in later on down the road without you even knowing about it, and things like that. So you definitely want to try to avoid those type of instances. And if you do find yourself in a situation where you're not 100% sure whether, I stumbled upon this website and I'm getting pop-ups, I'm not sure what to do, you can hit Control W on your keyboard. This works on Windows or Mac. That will usually close down the window with focus, which is usually that pop-up window. In worst cases, if you can't do that and it doesn't work, then you can hit Alt F4 on your keyboard. Again, this works on Mac or Windows. Or Linux, even if you use with Linux, it will actually shut down the entire browser window. So then you won't have to click on those potential, pop-up areas that they want you to do. Now, you will lose any other tabs and things if you go with the Alt F4, but at least you're safe to the point where you won't have to be concerned about the downloading things. So the other thing too is that the bad guys realize that many people don't want to remember umpteen passwords and umpteen logins and things like that. So they're leveraging something called SSO or single sign-on. And what that does is that allows you to access other sites using the login from another site, potentially. So in this case, it could be an Apple login, it could be a Facebook login, it could be a Google login, it could be Steam, which is a gaming thing, Discord, which is a chat. It allows you to use those other existing logins for other sites if it's linked up that way. The problem is like I said, the bad guys realize that this is an attack vector because many people don't want to remember multiple logins. So in this case, if I use my Facebook login, guess what? I only have to remember my Facebook login, and that is used across multiple sites. I'm just linking it to the existing Facebook login. Again, the bad guys know this, and so what they're doing is they're setting up fake versions of this. And the problem is it's extremely difficult to visually tell, and it's extremely easy to fall for. And I'll show you some examples here. So what I'm talking about is, like, obviously, if you go to like Canva, and it asks you to hook into a lot of times it'll say, hey, do you want to log in with your Apple? Do you want to log in with your Google? Do you want to log in with your Facebook, or continue with email? My recommendation is obviously set up a login individually for every single site, because if it does get compromised, you're only losing the credentials for one site, where this, you have to change everything that is using potentially whatever one of these got compromised. But I'll show you the example here of how hard this is to tell. So this is just an example that, I go visit a site and I want to use my Facebook login to log into this site if it lets me do that. So on the left-hand side, this is the phishing version. And if you look real closely here, it is exactly identical to the real one. For those tech-savvy people, even if you click on the padlock up here, it has a padlock. If you click on it, it will actually match the exact same thing that is on the real one. And for the very, very savvy, if you look at the total URL here, which is this, the website address up here, it will match the exact real one as well. So visually, without me putting phishing and real on this, if you were to come across this fake one in the wild, visually, there's no way for you to tell whether it's real or whether it isn't. Here's another example. This one's Google. So again, phishing site is on the left, the real one is on the right. Again, the only difference in this one just happens to be by chance that the phishing one has a create an account on it, where the real one doesn't. However, that wouldn't really raise any red flags right out of the gate because you haven't logged in yet. So it could very well have that, and unless they're side by side like they are here, you wouldn't probably even notice that. But again, if you go to the padlock will match exactly what the padlock is over on this side. The URL will match exactly what is on the real side as well. So visually, there's absolutely no way to tell the difference between the phishing site and the real site. Let me just make sure I don't have another example here. No, I don't. So I'm going to tell you how you can tell the difference. There is a way to do it. So don't fret that, oh my gosh, I could be falling for this. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you do want to use this, where you want to use an existing login onto another website, what I recommend you doing is when you get this window that comes up, it's going to ask you to put your creds in there. Before you put any information in there, what I want you to do is go to the top bar, at the top of this window bar here. I want you to drag it, try to drag it, right click it or left click it, and try to drag it off the screen, off your browser screen. So this would be your browser screen here. I want you to try to drag it off the screen. If this window lets you break the borders of the browser window and actually opens up onto your desktop as a separate browser window, that is the real one. If you do that with the fake one, what will happen is you'll get to the edge and it'll stop and won't let you go outside the border of the browser window. And that's because of how this window is actually being displayed right now. It's trapped inside the browser window, so it will not be able to break out of that, where the real one is a separate browser window in and of itself. So that's how you can tell the difference. It works on all those, the previous ones. It doesn't matter what login you're trying to use, but just drag that window, and if it breaks the border of the browser window and opens up, it's the real one. So that's how you can tell. That's the only way you can tell right now without getting real technical and looking at things in the back end, which I don't expect end users to necessarily do. So it's a quick way to tell. All right, so now we're going to get into some email tips, because it seems like we got a lot of people here asking about email and the examples here. So we're going to get into that. First, some tips. If you are using your work email for any type of personal usage, I recommend you stop. If you're not doing that, good for you. The reason why is because the bad guys, again, they realize the habits of general folks, and what they'll do is they will craft emails that really are more catered towards personal conversations than they are work conversations. And what I mean by that, especially good over the holidays, that while Easter's here, oh hey, guess what? I have young children, or I might have young grandchildren, depending on how old you are. I need to buy some Easter candy or Easter gifts or whatever, so the Easter bunny can drop this stuff off, and you're using your work email for that. Well, guess what? The bad guys send you fake purchases. They send you fake shipping notices. They send you fake invoices, all that kind of stuff. That's what they do. And if you're using your work email for personal usage, you're going to just blindly open one of those because you're not going to know what it is. If you're not doing that kind of stuff with your business email, you won't even have to think about it. You see an invoice come in, and whether it's eBay, guess what? I got an eBay invoice. What the heck? I don't use that. You don't even have to open it. Just delete it. It's that simple. Just delete it and be gone. Because it goes back to one of the questions. If you do open one of these malicious emails, two things. One, there's usually hidden images in it that, again, tells the bad guys that, hey, I got an active email address here. I'm going to keep sending spam. So when you open the email, it will not only tell them that they've got a live email at the other end, but it could tell them that you opened it too. In worst case, there could be something malicious in that email that if you open it, it could trigger something and things like that. So again, the best way to do it is to not utilize your work email for personal usage, and then you'll be able to detect a lot of those bogus invoices or things like that that wouldn't normally be coming to a business email in the first place. So that's an easy way to do it. The other thing on the flip side is, obviously, if you're at your work PC, please don't connect to your personal email on your work PC. it's pretty much the same thing as if you were sharing emails. I mean, if you're going to the web and opening up your personal email while you're on your work desktop, if you open something in your personal email, you're pretty much opening it in the work environment. So wait till you get home or use your cell phone. If that's the case, make sure you're not connected to the work network, that you're using your data plan, and that will keep those two areas completely isolated. So this kind of goes back to the whole opening things without, giving it a little bit of thought. So Microsoft has a handy, Microsoft Outlook, if you use that, has a handy thing. It used to be called Preview Pane. Now it's called Reading Pane. And that is basically just this little window over here that shows you the contents of every email that comes into your inbox. So if it hits the top, it's going to highlight it, and it's going to show you the contents of that email. Great and handy if every email that comes into your inbox is a valid email. The problem, as I just mentioned, is two things. One, this opens every single email that comes into your inbox automatically. And two, you want to be the person that's doing that, not some automated piece of software. Because if this is malicious, again, there could be a hidden image somewhere in here that says, hey, I got a live one here. Keep sending them all kinds of spam, keep sending them all kinds of stuff, and things like that. So highly recommend turning this off. To do that, you go up to the view pane, the view tab here, and then go over to reading pane. If you hit that drop down arrow, it should say right bottom and off. You want to turn it to off. And what will happen is this whole reading pane will then disappear, and this message will now be out extended to the edge of the screen here. And now you will have to double click that email, which is what you want to do to interact with that email. So you now are controlling whether the email is getting looked at or not, and not some automated piece of software. Yeah, you have to go through one extra step, but you know what? Sometimes security doesn't come with convenience. So now, again, if this is a invoice from PayPal, if you had Preview Pane on or Reading Pane on, it would automatically open that. Whereas if it's turned off, you would see that and say, wait, I don't do anything PayPal. Why am I getting this? You don't. You're not. You just delete it because you know that that's not something normal. So now we'll get into some of the phishing examples. So here's an example, and this is a common one. It looks like it's coming from Microsoft, and it's telling you that your password is going to expire. And it's so nice that it even includes some handy dandy links in here that you can just so easily click on and just change your passwords. How convenient. Oh, great. That's exactly what the bad guys want you to do. So this is not a real email. This is an email that looks like it's coming from Microsoft. It's fake, and they want you to click on one of these two links. Like I said, that's how easy it is. What happens if you click on one of these two links? Well, one of two things is going to happen. Regardless which one you click on here, it's gonna take you to the exact same fake website, and that website is made to look like Microsoft Outlook. And if you're not careful, what will happen is the bad guys will actually steal your login information because you're going to give it to them inadvertently. So what happens is you click on one of these two links, and it's going to take you to a site that looks like Microsoft's website, and it's going to ask you for your login credentials, and you're going to put that in. That's usually your email address, and then it's going to ask you for your password. And one of two things will happen after you do that. One will be it'll give you an error, and then you'll type it in again. It'll give you an error, and it'll keep giving you an error, and then finally you're just going to give up because you think something's wrong. Or the second time, what's going to happen is it'll give you an error the first time, and then the second time it'll magically work, and you won't really think much about it. So what's happening here is that site is set up specifically to steal your login information, as I mentioned. Excuse me. And what happens is you're putting your username in there and your password in there. And because it's a fake site, obviously it's not going to work. That's what happens the first time, where it keeps erroring out. It's not the real site, so it's never going to work. But what it is doing, it's taking everything that you put in there and emailing it or sending it to the bad guy who set up that website. So you are literally giving them your password. Now, the smart guys, they do the second method, which is the first time it'll error out, but the second time what they do is they actually send you to the right Microsoft website the second time. So they repaint the page with the right Microsoft site, and if you're not paying attention and realize that that's what they did, the second time it's going to work because that is the real Microsoft site. So you might just think, oh, I mistyped my password the first time and maybe not think anything of it. But that fake site still stole your credentials and emailed them or sent them to the bad guys. So they still got you. So how do you avoid that? If you get one of these emails, never, ever, ever click on any of these embedded links in here on any of these type of emails. Instead, what I want you to do is go to a browser and open up a brand new browser and go to that website by you typing it in there. So in this case, you want to go to Microsoft's website and try to log in that way. This is another example. It's just a banking example. Trustedbank.com. You're supposed to verify a withdrawal in another country. Again, if you're one of these customers, they want you to click on this link here, and if you do that, you're going to try to log in with your credentials, and it's going to steal them and send it to the bad guys. That's the whole idea behind this. Again, if you get one of these emails, make sure you go to trustedbank.com yourself, and by typing it into a browser, that way you know you're getting to the right site. You're going to, again, once you log in there, somewhere in your login, in your message center or something like that, there's going to be a link in there that's going to validate this is actually the case or not. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, think of phishing as walking up to a pond at a farmer in a farmer's lot or something, and you're not sure if there's fish in there. You just know there's a body of water. You got a handful of breadcrumbs, and you're going to throw the breadcrumbs into the pond and see if anything comes up from the bottom and tries to take the breadcrumbs. That's kind of what phishing is. That's exactly what phishing is, actually. They kind of send out a whole bunch of emails. They're not physically targeting anybody individually. They just send out all kinds of emails to all kinds of different people and hope that someone opens them up or whatever, hits the unsubscribe link, whichever it is, and that basically tells them, hey, I got a live one here. Now they're going to try to interact with them a little more and get them to do other things. So that's kind of what phishing is. Spearfishing is a little more targeted. So spearfishing, I know there's something in that pond. I know maybe it's a particular fish. Maybe I know there's a bass or something in there, and I'm going to take my bait now to try to catch that bass because I know what bass like to eat. I know, it's different than other fish, perhaps, things like that. So that's kind of what spearfishing is. So spearfishing is more targeted. So this is like physically targeting somebody. And usually what they end up doing here is they end up pretending to be an internal employee usually, and they target HR or payroll. And what they do is they send an email out pretending to be an internal employee and asking for their direct deposit information to be updated. So if you do not have policies and procedures in place internally to verify the authenticity of this request, what's going to happen is if this is blindly followed, HR is going to update the information, payroll is going to come around for that pay period, and they're going to send that money to the updated direct deposit. And by the time the real person that was supposed to be getting paid realizes they didn't get paid, and goes back to HR saying, hey, what's going on here? I didn't get my paycheck. And they're like, oh, well, you asked me to change the direct deposit information. No, I didn't. And you basically out the payroll for that person because you have to now replace it because you've made an error and send it to somebody that it wasn't really the employee. Usually the bank account at the other end was set up with stolen credentials. Once that money hits the account, it's going to get emptied out and closed, and that person was never even the person that was on the account in the first place, but they didn't know that, and sometimes that's what happens. So you need to make sure that you're verifying these type of requests in person or in writing with that person standing in front of you or in front of you making that verbal request. If you can't verify the authenticity and it's only being done via email, you better throw up some red flags very quickly and just say, what our policy is, you have to have this in writing or verbally in person. If you do have a known good phone number prior to this email conversation, you can verify it that way too. But never, ever try to verify something in an email conversation with a number that's being given during that email conversation, because they do that too. They pretend to be people that they're not easily. So again, you need to have the right policies and procedures in place to try to stop this kind of thing. So the next thing, again, this is another type of phishing, but it's called whaling. And this is usually going after, as the word and the definition, you're going after the big fish here. So you're either pretending to be the big fish, or you are using the big fish and trying to go after somebody that is underneath using scare tactics. So I'll show you an example of that one. So this here is someone pretending to be Roger. In this case, he is the CFO, and I'm assuming, just by the email contents, I'm assuming Sean is somebody that either works underneath him or in some type of finance department, whatever it is. Saying, hey, are you busy? I'm out of the office and I need you to process a wire transfer for me today. Let me know and I'll send the details over to you. That's one tactic. Another tactic is, hey, I need you to go buy me some Amazon gift cards or eBay gift cards or whatever the gift card flavor of the month is. I need you to go out and buy those cards because I'm giving them out at a presentation or whatever. Again, if you get one of these emails, you need to, if I'm Sean and I'm getting one of these emails, I'm going to Roger's office and saying, hey, did you send this to me? And if Roger isn't in his office, I'm going to send him an email, not with this one, but with his real email address. Or I'm going to go to the HR and say, hey, do you have a contact number for Roger? He's asking me to do something and it's kind of weird and I don't think it's valid. You know, it's got to be at a known number that is already on record, not something that is sent here through this conversation. Because a lot of times they'll do that. Oh, you know, hey, by the way, this one just says sent from my iPhone, but at the bottom, hey, my cell phone number is this. And if you don't verify that that's actually his cell phone number, you're just talking to the bad guy. He's just pretending to be the CFO here, and you're still going to give him the money. So again, you need to have policies and procedures in place that just don't blindly follow these type of things, because I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that've been burned by this particular thing. It's absolutely ridiculous. How easy it is, unfortunately, to get people to fall for this, and you're out a couple $1,000s sometimes. You know, we had one person that contacted us. They weren't a client, but they were asking, is there anything that we can do to help them? They fell for this 3 times, back to back to back. Oh, I need more. They went out 3 different times in the same day and bought like $1,500 worth of these cards. It's like, okay, you got to use some common sense sometimes. And I understand a lot of people are afraid when it comes to pushing back on their C-level individuals, but I'm going to tell you this: any C-level that works at a company that is going to give you hell for checking up and making sure that this is valid is probably not a very good individual, because you're looking out for the company, and you're also looking out for them too, because somewhere along the bottom, it's going to come off the bottom line somewhere. You know, so again, you know, I don't know many C-level folks that would do that. I'm sure maybe there were some out there, and it's unfortunate. But if I get one of these emails, I'm questioning it. There's no doubt about it, because, you know, I'm just not going to blindly follow something in an email. It's just that simple. So again, if you follow these tactics and just start raising red flags, you know, if something doesn't feel right, your gut is probably 9 times out of 10 right. You know, and in the case where, you know what, this is really Roger, well, you know what, you verified it, so yeah, I'll go get that now, or I'll process that wire transfer because I verified it and I know it's really you. We had some people in the previous conversations ask about, well, you know, what about phone conversations? What if people are calling in and asking for this kind of thing? Some companies, now this may not work in everywhere, but some companies have like trigger words that they include in the conversation that only the employees internally know. So they like, you know, hey, I need you to process me a wire transfer, and they say some word that only makes sense to the people that work there. That way they know they're talking to at least one of the internal people there, because they know what that word is. That's kind of a cool way to do it. It's kind of, you know, you're doing it in code and you're verifying it in one such way or another. However, if you get a disgruntled employee and they share that information, you got to make sure you're rotating that word around a little bit, just because if it gets out there, then you know, that could be used against you. So that's the only negative thing I would have to say about that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool when they brought that up, saying that they did that internally. That way they could verify who that entity was. So how can you stop some of this? Well, usually when you've got fake emails coming in, they're coming in from the outside into your internal organization. So we highly recommend turning on this banner here. This is yellow banner here that basically alerts you to when an email is coming from the outside in. So in the case that someone is pretending to be an internal employee, this email would actually have one of those banners at the top here. And I suggest putting it at the top as the first thing you see. When you open that email, you want to see this banner, just like it's in the example here. And then the message will be underneath there. This is, if you're a Microsoft 365 user, that's where your email's through. This is just a configuration thing. There's no cost to do this. It's just a configuration, and it needs to be turned on. If you're one of our clients, we probably already have it turned on for you. But if you're not one of our clients and you're just joining us for this presentation, I would highly recommend you enable this, because this is a quick visual way to determine, okay, hey, wait a minute, this says, I've got Roger here that's saying to Sean that I'm supposed to do a wire transfer today, but why does it have the external banner on it? Exactly, it wouldn't. If it's an internal person talking to an internal person, it would never have that banner on it. So even on the previous one here, this would not, if this was really the employee, it would not have that banner. It would be very obvious that this is coming from the outside, and that should immediately bring red flags. So they're one of two things: either it's fake, and that's more likely than not, or they aren't sending this through their work email, because if they were, again, it would not have this banner on it. So again, it's a very, very quick way of visually telling. We even have a few clients that we've configured prepending here in the subject line that we have external prepended to that in the beginning here. That way on a cell phone, you can actually see it before you even have to open this up. So it makes it to the point where, you know what, it's coming from outside, but it says it's coming from my CEO. What the heck, I think it's, obviously it's fake, because it wouldn't be coming from your CEO from the outside unless, again, they're using a non-work email. So again, this is a very, very simple way of determining that. So the bad guys also realize that, hey, end users are getting smarter. They're not falling for everything that we throw at them. So what else can we do? Well, now they're doing something called consent phishing. What is consent phishing? It's basically an application that they are prompting you to accept. So what I would say, if you're one of our clients and you get one of these type of windows, it would be this window right here coming up saying, hey, permissions requested, you can either cancel or accept. Before you click anything, call our service desk and have them take a look at that. Now, there are some instances where this might be valid, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say currently, if you're getting one of these blindly pop up and you're not installing some kind of CRM package or something like that, this is probably trying to steal or access your account without you giving them necessarily permission to do so. But you are, if you hit accept here. So what will happen here is if this is a bad actor's app, which this one is, you hit accept here, you're giving them access to everything in your Microsoft ecosystem, all your contacts, all your mail, all your calendars, all your everything, your files, everything that is in the Microsoft realm, you are giving them access to. If you run SharePoint, you're giving them access to that with all full rights that you have. And also, this bypasses multi-factor. So if you're using multi-factor, and we'll talk about that, this will bypass that too. So you're basically giving them full-blown access to everything by simply hitting accept here. So like I said, you want to be very, very cautious just blindly hitting accept here. Call our service desk or bring it to your IT team before you do that. That way you're not just giving them access, because this is also pretty hard to track down after the fact. It's not quite as easy as one would think. So if you accidentally click on that and don't tell anybody, it's not going to just raise up all kinds of alarm bells and stuff too. But so just be careful. Another way is called phishing. So this is utilizing, and this is actually very easy too, is using QR codes. That's this little hieroglyphic looking box over here for those that aren't familiar with what a QR code is. Basically, you scan that with your phone, and it will send you to a website that you don't really know where you're going until you get there, because it's usually a shortened URL, and it doesn't necessarily show you where you're going until you get there. But these became a big problem when obviously COVID hit, because a lot of restaurants and stuff went to touchless menus. So if I'm a bad actor and I want to try to entice you into clicking on things, I can just go to a local restaurant and start dropping fake menu tags on the tables. And unfortunately, with the restaurant industry right now and how short-staffed many of these people are, I mean, the wait staff that is there is so overwhelmed that they won't even know if it's a real tag or not, because they're too busy waiting on 9 tables at the same time with people that are angry and no patience and things like that. So it's very easy to do this if I'm physically targeting somebody. And a classic example of this is not this Super Bowl but the previous one. There was an ad during one of the commercials that was nothing more than one of these QR codes bouncing around on a blank screen. I forget if it was white screen with the black version of this, or if it was reverse, but it was like bouncing around the screen like Pong, for those of us that remember that. And they had like 1 million people scan that thing just in the commercial. It was like a 30-second commercial, no words, no nothing, just this code bouncing around the screen, and people physically took their phones out and scanned it while that was happening. No idea what it was. It just goes to show you how easy it is to trick people into doing it. In this case, it was marketing genius, because that's all it was. It was just a marketing thing. And I forget what company it was, but it was absolutely brilliant. But it also shows you how naive people are to just blindly follow things. They have no idea what they're doing. And it's just an easy way to figure out, and get people to do things. So again, you got to be very, very careful when it comes to these type of codes. So USB and mobile devices, obviously USB is like the flash drives, the little flash keys. If you find one of those laying around on the ground, don't plug it into your machine, please. Hold on to it if you're one of our clients and give it to one of our engineers. We'll make sure it's safe, or try to figure out who the actual owner is before you just go blindly putting that into your machine, because it could automatically run something without you realizing it the minute you plug it in. If you do happen to use these to transfer files back and forth, we run into this sometimes at our architects, because some of those drawings are really big. So they put them on flash drives. Just make sure you're doing virus scans on the machine, or that you're transferring things to or from, and that should hopefully protect you. Everybody pretty much has a smartphone nowadays. And the problem with the smartphones is the smartphones are battery hogs. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll bring their charge cable but not bring their wall brick, the little part that goes into the electric. And they'll take that cable and they'll plug it into their desktop or their laptop. While that will charge your device, your phone, what you may not realize is it also turns your device into a USB key. If there's something on that phone that is just waiting to be plugged into a potential Windows network or a Mac, maybe, you could potentially infect your devices through your mobile phone without even realizing it. So I recommend using your wall brick and using the wall electricity to charge your phones. Don't plug it into your PCs. That also leads me to the next thing. If you're out and about, there's a lot of places out there that have public charging stations. And unfortunately, the bad guys know that a lot of people use these. It could be at a hotel, it could be at a lobby, a mall, an airport, coffee shop, things of that nature. It's called juice jacking. And as I just mentioned, what happens is you plug in your phone to this hostile public charging station, not realizing it's hostile. And when you do that, again, it will charge your phone. But what the station is actually doing is it's stealing everything off your phone while you're charging. Again, it turns your phone into a USB key. So now I'm taking all your emails, all your contacts, all your pictures, everything that's on your phone. I'm basically stealing off your phone, and while you're charging them with some of these public charging stations, if it's hostile. There are some cables that you can buy that will block some of that stuff. But again, the easiest way to avoid it is wait till you get to your car, plug it into your car. That way it's safe, or your wall brick. You can carry most of these electrical plugs even on planes now as a carry-on. So it's just one of those things where, you know, a few minutes without a battery won't kill you if you just wait till you get to your car and use that, and it's much safer than any public charging station out there. I'm not saying there's not good ones out there, but you know, to tell the difference is very, very hard. So passwords, we recommend complex, secure, and unique passwords, as I mentioned. You know, I personally like logins for every single site, because if something were to happen with a single site, I only have to worry about that one site and not everything. So what I also recommend is 10 characters, at least 10 characters long. You have to have at least a special character. That's like an ampersand, an exclamation mark, things like that. At least one uppercase letter, and also at least one number. And we'll explain why that is here very shortly. But you're also probably wondering, well, how in the world am I going to remember all these passwords for every single site and this and that? And, you know, it's too hard, and that's why I make my passwords easy and all this stuff. So let me explain a little bit. So you've got a couple options here. So one is using an online manager. There are a couple of big password online managers out there. I personally don't use them, and I personally don't recommend them. The reason why is because they are huge targets for the bad guys. And if anybody had a keen eye at the beginning of the presentation, you may have noticed that one of those companies was on my opening slide as a company that got breached. Well, they were not only breached one time, they have been breached 4 times now. And it's the same company. You know, that goes to show you how big of a target these guys are. And they're not the only ones that have been breached. There's about 5 big ones out there, and 3 of them have been breached at least twice now. So 3 out of the 5 have been breached. Just, you know, again, they're targets. If I know where the money is, or I know where the passwords are, that's what I'm going to try to hit. And that's exactly what the bad guys are doing. So I personally would sooner have my passwords stored in a way that is, 1, I control it, and 2, I do it in such a way that I'm not recording the true password. So my method is pretty simple. I have a USB key, which is a little USB flash drive. That flash drive is encrypted. So for me to get access, or anybody to get access to that, they have to know the single password, which is a 24-character password that I have memorized, to unlock that key so I can access what's on that. Now, on that key, once I unlock it, it's basically a simple text file with every single login and every single password that I have, that I use out there. But I don't have the entire password recorded. So even if someone were to get into that key, it's still, and they try the password that's written there, it's still not going to work. In fact, some presentations, I actually open up my password vault and show everybody online, because you're never going to guess what it is. There's just no human way you're ever going to figure it out. So how do I do that? I can use it in a couple different ways here. So you can do known missing characters. So let's say my password is password in this case here, and I'm leaving off the first 2 characters and the last character. That might be the pattern, whatever it is. You know, so basically all I'm showing is the middle section here. I know there's 3 missing characters wherever it is. It could be at the beginning, it could be at the end, it could be at the beginning and the end. Whatever the pattern is, you know, whatever those missing characters are, you know. And it's the same characters on every single one of your passwords. If they're missing, you can do that. But you can safely do that because only you know what characters are missing. Only you know the pattern of those missing characters. So if someone were to see that list, they're going to try the list as it is, and it's not going to work. 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 And they're going to think, oh, it's an old password list, and give up. So again, now I wouldn't recommend using your initials or things like that. Something simple, don't do that. But use something that you can remember. But again, you know the pattern, you know the characters. It could be 4 characters, it could be 5 characters, whatever it is, you know what that pattern is. And that's why it's almost impossible for anybody to ever really figure it out, because they don't even know there's missing characters in the first place. So the other option is adding characters. Now this is a little trickier, and the reason why is because you are physically adding characters to your password that say you're writing down. So in this case, you can see again, I'm adding 2 characters at the beginning and 2 characters at the end in this case. So I have an A and a B and a Z and a T. So my password would be, you know, the middle section here. Now on the one underneath it, you'll see that the middle section is the exact same, but I had changed the characters that I'm adding. This is just for demo purposes. Obviously, I wouldn't use the same password, but in this case, I just wanted to show you that you have to mix up the characters that you're adding, because what happens is if you continually use A, B, and ZT on every one of your passwords, there's software out there that I can run your password list through that will tell me, hey, every one of these passwords begins with an A, B, and it ends with a ZT. You know what? Maybe someone's padding that password, and it'll actually suggest that I pull that off, and guess what? Now I got your password. So in this case, you know, if you're going to add characters, you want to make sure you're randomizing what those characters are. Doesn't really matter because you just know you're going to drop them, but anybody that comes across that list would not know that they're adding them because of the differences in what's there. Me personally, I actually use both. So I'll even tell you what I do. I use missing and added characters, but good luck figuring out where they're added, what my pattern is, what's missing, what that pattern is, and how many there are. Like I said, that's why I blindly just show my password list, because there's no way that anyone, unless someone's, you know, sitting on a horseshoe or something, it would be very, very odd for that person to be able to guess what that password is. And by the time they get through every possible combination, and we'll get to that here in a second, I'll be gone, long gone, they'll be gone, and everybody else will probably be long gone too. So why do we recommend 10? Well, at the beginning of last year, we were recommending 7. That was the beginning of last year. It then quickly went up to 8 and 9, and now it's up to 10. So you can see here for a 7-digit, 8-digit, and 9-digit password, with all that complexity, numbers, uppercase, lowercase letters, symbols, all that stuff, with the current hardware technology that's out there right now, I can guess every single combination of that password at most in 2 days. And in most cases, it's under an hour in this case, and under a minute in this case. So 7-digit password, if that's what you're relying on, I can guess that password, every possible combination of a 7-digit password, in under 31 seconds. That's how fast I can get your password. And it's basically just guessing going through every single combination. So at 10, you can see right now we're running at 5 months. I'll be quite honest with you, by the time probably June comes around, we'll probably be up to 11 or 12 characters, because the hardware is getting faster and faster and faster, which means these times keep going down and down and down. Me personally, I don't use anything under a 14-character password. So right now you can see it's going to be 16 million years for that to happen. And in some cases, I use 24-character passwords, which you could see is in the trillions of years, way into the trillions. It could be even further than that. So like I said, I'm not overly too concerned about people trying to brute force my password and things like that, but that's why we recommend 10. So the other thing we kind of mentioned real quick here is multi-factor. So what is multi-factor? Multi-factor is basically, it's also called two-factor. It's based on the premise of something you know and something you have. So the something you know is your username and your password. The something you have is usually an app that's running on your cell phone or your cell phone itself that is asking for a second form. It's either a 6-digit code, or sometimes it might be a text message, or it's prompting you, hey, are you trying to log in right now, or not? It does stop 90% of the hacker attempts out there. There's a reason why it doesn't stop all of them. Nothing is 100% foolproof, but and I'll show you the example of how the 10% would get through. So for anybody using the push method, what that is it'll basically, you'll log in, and then it's going to send you a message saying, hey, is this you, on your phone? Hey, is this you? Well, the bad guys might figure out that you're using push technology, and what they'll do, it's something called MFA fatigue. So what they'll do is they'll bomb you with text messages, and you might be in a meeting, or you might be trying to sleep, or whatever it is. You might be in dinner, at an appointment, whatever. You're just finally going to say, oh my God, would this just please make this stop? And you're going to hit approve, and you've let them in. The only thing stopping these guys from getting into your account at this point is your multi-factor. Now, this is only going to work is if your credentials are already compromised. So they already know what your username and password are. So if you start out of the blue, start getting spam bombs for MFA asking you to log in, quickly figure out what account it is and change your credentials, because they have your credentials. So it's just something to keep in mind. So real quick, wrapping up here. Don't click on emails, links within emails. Open up the browser yourself. That way you know you're getting to the thing. Verify the person is who they claim they are before you're sending any money. Excuse me. Use strong passwords and MFA. Make sure you're storing those passwords securely. Disable accounts from former employees. Make sure your data is also backed up regularly. So hopefully, this gives you a little bit of idea of, some of the tactics that the bad guys are using out there. And hopefully you can avoid some of that as well. One thing I will say is we do have a YouTube channel that has some podcasts. I do go a little further onto the social media stuff. It's just audio, 15, 20 minutes tops. I also talk about public wireless. It's not only good for business use, but for personal, especially if you have young kids. You might want to listen to the Facebook one or the social media one for sure, and things like that. But I don't see any questions. I know we're a little over on time here, but I don't see any other further questions. I think all the questions have been answered. Emails all the time. That's in reference to, I think, the internal employee one, and then someone's saying they've been whaling us. Yes, that happens all the time. So I don't think there's any questions. If there are any questions and you need any follow-up, just send us an email to info@pcatg.com, and we will take a look at that and respond back to you with an answer. For all attendees, you will be getting a certificate of attendance. That way you can provide that for compliancy issues. I thank you for your time, and hopefully this was eye-opening and educational for everybody, and hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.
The world has changed. Cybersecurity threats are more automated, sophisticated, and pervasive than ever before. And conventional approaches to security simply can't keep up. Collections of best-of-breed point solutions aren't integrated or scalable enough. For security administrators with scarce time, budget, and staff, these disconnected toolsets are a nightmare. It's time to wake up. It's time to leave the old ways behind. It's time to step into the XDR realm and unleash the power of unified security with WatchGuard ThreatSync. ThreatSync consumes and correlates threat intelligence across environments, users, and devices to automatically pinpoint and neutralize cyber attacks before it's too late. It helps you stay one step ahead of evolving threats, simplify operations, and deliver powerful, comprehensive protection at scale. The XDR realm awaits. WatchGuard ThreatSync will get you there.